Okay, now that you have some things written down for these documents, let's kind of walk through and look at some of the big ideas you could put here. First of all, so you have annotated or taken some notes on documents 1, 2, and 3, and you'll notice that when trying to get to the basics of what Islamic civilization was like during this time period, you really have some contradiction here. And I'm going to tell you that on the DBQ, you're going to have some contradiction on the DBQ. All the documents won't always neatly fit into just the topic body paragraphs that you think. There'll be one or two documents that contradict each other, and you try to look at sourcing to try and unravel that contradiction. So context is very important here. So you'll notice especially that the first document and the second document just go head to head. Because if you're trying to find out what Islamic civilization was like, we have a guy here in document number 1, a historian, and he's saying that there's no virtue, there's no learning, and they're hostile in Islam to knowledge of the arts and sciences. So if this is the only little window you have to the past to see what Islamic civilization is like, you're going to get a very negative image of it. So, and if you look at document two, it's Byzantine Greek, so this is Christian document, this is a Christian work of art, and it shows a Christian scholar, a Byzantine scholar, sitting down with an Islamic scholar, and the Greek scholar is copying, is translating from the from the Muslim scholar who's helping him. They're translating some scholarly works on physics. And so you look at their faces, there's no, they're not being forced to do this, there's no coercion. They're working together, they seem to be getting along, and Islam seems to be giving some of its scientific information to Christianity. So you have a real contradiction here. Now, how do you resolve the issue between these two documents? Well, the first document is coming out of a book on the Crusades. And the Crusades was this incredible peak of antagonism between Islam and Christianity. And Christians lost those Crusades for the most part. And probably this historian wrote this because he was wanting to take Islam, which had defeated them in the Crusades, and made the civilization look as bad as possible. Now, that sentence I just said would count as sourcing on the DBQ. I gave you a little template. It's something like X probably wrote Y because he or she was wanting to, Z, where you take what the person said, you mention who they are and why that's relevant to why they said what they did. And again, there's a video on this on contextualization and sourcing that I've previously assigned. So probably, and the second one, if the Christians are going to lie about Islam, there's no incentive for document 2, for the author of document 2, to make Christianity look like it's the receiving end of Islam's knowledge. Probably that's more true. And in document number 1, the author just has some problems viewing Islam in a positive way because it's about the Crusades. By the way, if you only put that this is the Crusades, this was written about the Crusades, that doesn't work because you're not adding any knowledge or insight of your own. You have to go beyond that when you're negotiating the differences between these two documents. And you would actually do that in the writing of your DBQ. Now, on the multiple choice of the AP test, you may have a question where you have to read a document like that, and the question would be like, which of the following is the context that helps us best understand why this document was written the way it does? And it might say something about the loss of Christianity in the Crusades or something like that. If you get to the third document, this one's really interesting because this is in the Delhi Sultanate, which is a time when Muslims ruled in South Asia, or what is today India. But it's written by a Hindu town administrator. So it's a bureaucracy, a bureaucrat who works for the Muslim government. And this is an inscription on a public water well. In other words, he wants this to be seen. That's important for understanding this. He wants this to be known. And there's a great deal of mixing or blending of beliefs. We call that syncretism, where he's evoking the Hindu gods about how happy they are to be ruling under the great Muslim leadership of the Sultan. So why would he put it this way? Well, if his job depends on being loyal to the Islamic State or to the Delhi Sultanate, which is Muslims, probably he's going to write about them in the most positive way to protect his job. So that's one of those point of view, or what was the author's purpose in writing it this way. He also wants this to be public, so he writes it on a well. He is playing the role of a good town administrator who's working for an outside religion that came in and took over and set up its own rule in India. So there's a good way that you can source the third document. So you're going to do this on the DBQ, you're going to do this on the multiple choice, and the SAQs have the first two SAQs in the test have source material as well. So I hope this was helpful for you, and we will write a timed DBQ here in the review for class. We're going to focus on the LEQ this week, so you will write an LEQ this week, and we'll look at the DBQ later. All right, see ya.